The charges against Irene Rutland include wounding a police officer and damage to property, all arising from a chance visit to a local restaurant. We've heard accounts of her behaviour there from the injured policeman, the owner of the restaurant, and his waitress. Now, we're to hear what happened at a public house earlier the same evening, adding another charge of theft to the list.
What is your religion?
Church of England.
Take the Bible in your right hand and read aloud the words on this card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Linda Margaret Brightson?
Yeah.
And you live at 93 Elm Gardens, Fulchester?
Yeah.
Miss Brightson, do you go regularly into the Carpenter's Arms?
I go there once or twice a week.
And one of these nights is usually a Friday.
That's the good music night.
Now, will you tell us what happened on Friday, the 16th of November?
We got there about 7.
We?
And, me and my girlfriend, Sylvia Bartlett.
Why so early?
They open 5:30.
Yes, but I thought the music didn't start until later.
8 o'clock. But you've got to get there early to get a seat.
Oh, yes, I see. Would you go on, please?
Well, my friend bought the first drinks. Then a couple of fellas we knew came over and got us some. I thought I'd buy a round before the music started, but I couldn't find my handbag.
Exhibit 1, please. Is that your handbag?
Yes, it is.
When was the last time that you'd seen it?
About half hour before, when I went to the ladies.
Did you look for it?
Oh, everywhere. And the landlord looked too before he phoned for the police.
When did you next see the bag?
The next day. Policeman, he came to my work and he asked me to identify it.
And what did you find?
Everything was still there, except for my pay packet with £15 in it.
Mrs. Brightson. Sorry, Miss Brightson. Would you tell the court how this £15 was made up?
Yeah, 2 £5 notes and 5 singles.
2 £5 notes and 5 £1 notes. Thank you. Will you wait there?
Miss Brightson, is Friday your payday?
No, Thursday.
Oh, you were still carrying your pay packet around with you the following day?
I always keep my notes in it, only change in my purse.
Oh, I see. You use the packet as a sort of wallet.
I suppose so.
How can you be so sure of the denominations of the notes that you had in your handbag that evening?
I beg your pardon?
Well, you say you had so many £5 notes and so many £1 notes. How did you know?
I always ask for 3 5s. One I give to me mum, and the other 2 and the odd pounds I keep for spending.
I see. Yeah, but you had 5 odd pounds. That would have made up another £5 note.
I'd lent my friend a couple of quid earlier in the week, and she gave it back to me that night. Well, you can ask her. She knew what I had in there.
Miss Sylvia Bartlett?
Yeah.
Now, whereabouts in the Carpenter's Arms were you sitting?
Near the stage.
Is that near the bar?
No, the other end.
Oh, well away from where would be the people who came in just to drink.
I suppose so.
Do you recognise the lady in the dock?
No, sir, sorry.
Please don't apologise, Miss Brightson. That is your handbag, is it?
Yeah.
Yes. It's a new one, is it?
Yeah.
What happened to the old one?
I lost it.
Did you? Thank you, Miss Brightson.
My learned friend has raised the question of the geography of the public house. Where is the ladies in relation to the table at which you were sitting and the bar?
About halfway between, roughly.
So any lady from any part of the lounge could have been in there at the same time as you, seen your handbag and taken it. Thank you. You are the licensee of the Carpenter's Arms.
I am.
On the evening of Friday the 16th of November, a Miss Linda Brightson reported the loss of her handbag to you. Is that correct?
Yes, that was just before 8. Well, I searched everywhere, but there was no trace of it, so I telephoned the local police station and reported it missing.
Do you see anyone in this court whom you recognize?
The lady, over there.
Is she a regular customer of yours?
Well, she's one of the people from the publishing firm down the road. They usually come in on a Friday evening, especially recently.
Especially recently?
Well, she, the accused. Now, she didn't come in till about 6 months ago, then she started coming with a man. I gather he was her boss.
Did you see her in your public house on the night in question, the 16th of November?
Yes.
At what time would that be?
Well, that'd be early on, 6:30, 7-ish.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman.
Is Friday night a quiet night for trade, Mr. Gorman?
It's one of the busiest.
Yes, that's what I would have thought, especially being a good music night. Yet you are able to pinpoint timings very accurately.
Well, you get used to it. Looking after a busy place like that, you've got to keep your eyes open.
You say the loss was reported to you just before 8 o'clock. How can you be so sure of that? You said yourself you were very busy.
Because while I was talking to the young lady about where she might have lost the bag, the group started up. So I suggested we go through to my private quarters and discuss it there. Now, the group always starts at 8.
I see. Now, when my learned friend asked you if Mrs. Rutland was a regular customer, you said they usually come in every Friday night. Why the plural?
I beg your pardon.
Why they? You were being asked about Mrs. Rutland.
Well, she's one of the publishing group, and they usually come in on a Friday evening.
So you think of Mrs. Rutland as one of the crowd?
She is now, yes.
If you saw them all there at the bar, you would automatically assume that she was there as part of the crowd.
My lord, I must object. How can this witness give evidence as to what he would or would not automatically assume?
Yes, the question should really be, do you think you may be assuming that Mrs. Rutland was part of that crowd when in fact she was not there on that occasion?
I'm obliged, my lord. What, of course, I am trying to suggest is that in a business like Mr. Gorman's, seeing hundreds of people every day, it's understandable if he might confuse the times at which he is accustomed to seeing his customers with the times at which he actually sees them.
Quite.
Mr. Gorman, can you be certain at what time you saw the defendant, Mrs. Rutland, on the evening of Friday, the 16th of November? I want you to think very carefully before you reply. It is very important.
Yes.
At what time?
I'm sure it was the usual time, my lord.
The usual time.
Mr. Gorman, you say that this group of people, the publishing crowd, as you put it, always come in early and always on a Friday. Why do you suppose this was?
Well, I suppose they like to unwind, a quiet drink to celebrate the end of another week.
Quite. And what time do they usually leave?
Oh, before 8. They can't stand the noise after that.
Did you ever hear Mrs. Rutland remark upon the noise?
Constantly. They all did. But the kids like it.
So it'll be mostly kids there later on.
Practically 100%, yes. They're the ones we cater for.
So an older customer will be rather more noticeable in that case, especially one who's always made a point of avoiding that part of the evening.
My lord, surely Mr. O'Connor is now guilty of the same offence of which I was accused.
My dear Mr. Lotterby, neither of you two learned gentlemen is on trial here. But I agree with the point you are making. Now remember, Mr. Gorman, you are on oath. Can you or can you not tell us at what time you saw Mrs. Rutland in your public house on the evening in question?
Well, perhaps not the exact time, my lord, but she was there.
Then let that be an end to it. Have you any further questions for this witness?
No, my lord.
Then you may go.
That concludes the case for the prosecution, my lord.
Thank you. Mr. Lotterby.
I call the defendant, Mrs. Irene Rutland. I want you to start from the beginning and tell us of your movements on the night in question. Now, what time did you finish work that evening?
Very late. There'd been a bit of an emergency, and the managing director had called a meeting which went on well after office hours.
Were you affected by that meeting in any way?
You mean upset?
Yes.
No, not really.
And after the meeting?
Well, it meant more work for me, and I was already behind, so I thought it best to stay on and clear some up before the weekend.
So at what time did you leave your office?
Just after 9.
And where did you go from there?
Well, I knew my colleagues would have left the carpenters hours before, but I felt like a drink. I needed one by then, so I went down there.
Did you stay long?
No, I couldn't stand the noise.
Did you speak to the landlord, Mr. Gorman?
No, I don't even remember seeing him there. It was so crowded.
So how long did you stay?
Not long, about half an hour. There was another smaller pub down the road, so I went there.
Which was that?
Oh, the George IV.
How long did you stay there?
Oh, longer, nearly an hour. It was quiet, and I gradually unwound.
And then?
Then I was hungry, so I went to my usual restaurant, Jacoby's, but it was closed, a private party, they said. I knew there was another place, the other end of Bridwell Road, so I went there.
The Kyrenia?
Yes.
Had you ever been there before?
No.
Was there anywhere else within easy walking distance where you could have gone to eat?
No, it's not a very good area for restaurants.
So you went in and ordered a meal?
Yes, a steak, and I had a whiskey to drink while I was waiting.
What happened when the food arrived?
Well, I'd ordered a sirloin steak, but that was certainly not what I got. It was very tough and overcooked.
Did you complain?
Yes. When I got the bill, I could see that I'd been charged for a fillet steak instead of a sirloin anyway. And there was a cover charge, goodness knows what that was for, and 10% for service.
Exhibit 5, please. Is that the bill which was given to you?
No, it's not. The one I had was for £3.25.
Please tell the court in what way that bill differs from the one you were actually given.
Completely. Well, this is the sort of bill I should have had. There's no cover or service charge, and the amount charged for the steak is less.
Mr. O'Connor, who furnished you with this bill?
Constable Mugridge, my lord. It was given to him by Mr. Platanos at the restaurant.
Mr. Platanos gave it to the constable.
That is correct, my lord.
When you first arrived?
No, my lord.
Well, when?
As we were leaving, my lord.
Thank you. Mr. Lotterby?
So, Mrs. Rutland, to whom did you complain?
To the waitress. She took the bill away and then came back and said it'd been checked and was correct, so I asked to see the manager.
Now, what happened then?
Well, he came out and started ranting and raving. I couldn't make much sense of it, except that he kept saying I had to pay.
What was your reaction to this?
Well, at first I was rather annoyed, but then I got frightened.
Now, why frightened?
Well, he came very close to me and he started pushing me and poking at me.
Now, what did you do?
I paid the bill. What else could I do? Then I got up to go, but he was still shouting at me. He was extremely rude, and then he started to manhandle me, and I was terrified. I tried to get away, and we fell against the table.
The one at which you'd been sitting?
Yes. The whole table went over, and my shoulder bag went with it. And then he got even more furious and said that I was breaking up the place.
And were you, Mrs. Rutland?
No, of course not. I was trying to clear up some of the debris, including the stuff that had fallen out of my bag. While I was doing that, he locked the door. I asked him to open it, but he said I had to stay there until I'd paid for the damage.
Now, what happened then?
Then the waitress came back and said the police were coming. I could hardly believe it.
How did Mr. Platanos react?
I must say he seemed surprised, too.
But nevertheless, he kept you there until the police arrived?
Yes.
And when they did?
It was just the one, Constable Mugridge.
Now, what did he do?
Well, he started to ask me questions, but Mr. Platanos was shouting and interfering, so the constable said it would be better if we went to the police station. I agreed.
You agreed?
Yes, anything to get out of that place.
But something occurred to stop you?
Just as we were leaving, the waitress suddenly produced a handbag, which she said was mine.
Was it?
Well, no, of course not. You've only got to look at it to see it couldn't be. It's much too young for me for a start.
Too young?
Well, I wouldn't buy a bag like that. It's a teenager's bag.
And you denied it was yours?
Yes, I did. But the waitress said it had been found by my table.
Could it have been?
Not at all. When I went in, I put my own bag down on the floor. I would have noticed another bag there immediately. And in any case, the whole table had been knocked over. It couldn't have remained in the same position.
Go on, please.
And then Mr. Platanos shouted that I was a And that's when my handbag hit the policeman.
Did you intend to hit him?
No, of course not. He was only doing his job. And he'd been quite nice to me.
Now, what happened?
He was very calm, really. He asked the waitress to get him some ice cubes, and he asked Mr. Platanos to get him a cloth.
Now, what did you do?
I looked out of the window to see if perhaps there was another policeman in the car who could help.
You looked out of the window?
Yes.
You didn't go to the door?
Well, I couldn't. I was holding some tissues to the policeman's nose.
Now, when Constable Muggeridge recovered, what happened then?
He arrested me.
Now, you are quite sure it was at this stage of the proceedings, after the constable had been injured, that he arrested you?
Quite sure.
Mrs. Rutland, how much money did you have in your bag when you entered the restaurant?
I don't know exactly, but it must have been about 15 or 16 pounds.
Did you count it?
No, but I'd been to the bank that day and I'd drawn out a cheque for 18 pounds, and I had about 5 pounds on me, but I bought some wine with that.
My lord, I submit as Exhibit 6 Mrs. Rutland's bank statement, which indicates a withdrawal of 18 pounds on November the 16th, 1973. And it was the residue of this amount which was found on you the following evening.
Yes.
Mrs. Rutland, were you drunk that evening?
No, I was not drunk.
Thank you, Mrs. Rutland.
Can anyone confirm the time at which you allege you left your office?
Well, the meeting ended at 6:30.
No,
My
not
colleagues...
when you left your meeting, but when you actually left your office.
No.
The area of your firm's premises are quite considerable, I believe. Are you telling us that there is no one on duty there at night?
Well, no one would have seen me leave. My office is in the small annex. The last one out slams the outer door, locking it.
Very convenient. Now, this meeting, how did it go for you?
For me?
Wasn't it a bit unpleasant? There was some criticism of your work, I believe.
Well, some.
And you're not used to criticism, especially of your work.
Who is?
Well, this upsets you.
Not really.
Come now. You were upset.
Well, a bit, maybe.
In the public house, the first one you visited, did you see anyone there? You knew?
Oh, no, my colleagues would have left hours before, had done, as far as I knew.
What about the next one, the George IV? Anyone there?
I'd only been there once before. No one would know. But the manager at Jacoby's could tell you that I called in there.
At what time?
About 10:15.
So, in fact, no one can vouch for your whereabouts between 6:30, when you left your meeting, and 10 o'clock when you arrived at Jacoby's. So you could have been the Carpenter's Arms for a lot of that time, including the period when the handbag was stolen.
I have told you where I was.
But you cannot produce anyone to substantiate your claim.
No.
Do you usually order large drinks?
Not usually, but...
At the Kyrenian restaurant, you were drinking double whiskies.
I'd had a long, hard day. I needed a boost.
Still? How many had you had previous to that?
A couple.
A couple? Let me remind you. At the Carpenter's Arms, you had a drink. Was it large or small?
I don't remember.
And the one at the next?
As a matter of fact, I had 2 drinks there. I had a lager and a whiskey. I was there quite a long time.
Were you?
Yes, nearly an hour.
And the second drink at the Kyrenia, was that a double too?
Well,
Well, the bill shows 2 large whiskies. You did not dispute that part of it.
No, but I didn't finish it.
So by the time you'd finished, you'd had at least 6 measures of whiskey and a lager.
And I'd eaten a steak. I'd had a meal.
You ate the steak? But you said it was overcooked and tough.
Well, it was edible, just about, and I was very hungry. Anyway, it's not the sort of place would do any good to send it back.
And you paid the bill, even though you disputed it.
Well, I had to.
And you said that even after Mr. Platanos had got his money, he was extremely rude. What did he say?
All sorts of things.
Specifically?
He said that I was drunk and there was nothing lower than a drunken woman.
Well, you had quite a bit to drink.
I was not drunk. Good Lord, I've never been drunk in my life.
Really? Never in your life?
No.
Well, I wish we all had heads as strong as yours. Do you call yourself an emotional woman?
I know how to control myself, if that's what you mean.
Have you been having any medical treatment recently?
Yes.
Hospital treatment?
As an outpatient.
Where?
A county psychiatric unit.
Why?
Just for depression. After my husband's death, he died 6 months ago.
Has this affected your work at all?
No.
Or your emotional life?
No, it's just depression, that's all.
Wasn't it about 6 months ago when you first started to go to the pub with your crowd?
One gets lonely.
Oh, yes, of course. Did you drink a lot when your husband was alive?
No.
Now, you say it's not a very good area for restaurants.
No, it isn't.
Then why'd you go to the Kyrenia?
I couldn't face making a meal at home, and I was hungry. There was nowhere else.
So you should not have been surprised that the service and the quality were not up to your usual standard.
I don't mind about the service, but I do mind being overcharged for poor quality, badly cooked food.
And that was the reason for your complaint?
Of course.
Now, you said that Mr. Platanus was ranting and raving, extremely rude, was pushing and poking at you. Are you telling us that you stayed calm beneath all the abuse that he was heaping on you?
I wouldn't say that.
No, neither would Mr. Platanus. In fact, you lost your temper, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
It was beneath your dignity to be in such a restaurant in the first place. Then your complaint was ignored. Then the proprietor dared to suggest that you'd had too much to drink, which in some people's eyes you had.
I was not drunk.
Did you not call Mr. Platanus a dirty little foreigner?
I'd never say that.
Oh, perhaps under normal circumstances you would not. But you said yourself you'd had a long, tiring day. You were a little upset. And you had a number of drinks, too.
I was not drunk.
You said that Mr. Platanus manhandled you.
Yes.
Would you explain, please?
He grabbed me by the arm and he pulled me towards the door.
He simply took you by the arm?
Very roughly. And he shook me hard. And he was shouting all the time and spitting.
Spitting? He spat at you, did he?
I don't mean like that. I mean, when he was talking, the way he talks, he sort of spits at you.
Well, his spitting could not have caused much damage.
No, of course not.
Well, then what did? It was because you lost your temper, wasn't it?
No.
It was your violent reaction to it. You were furious with this dirty little foreigner for getting the upper hand, didn't you?
It's not true.
So you decided to lash out at him. You wanted to do as much damage as you could.
It's not true.
The case of the Queen against Rutland will be resumed tomorrow in the Crown Court.